Tonight's first storyteller is not a stranger to the Next to Normal stage. Karla Bailey Smith. Karla is a local artist, small business owner, and mom who loves to make new friends wherever she goes. She continues to treasure the kindest ones, and we asked each storyteller to give us a nonprofit that exemplifies kindness that they support. And Karla gave us the Prairie Pride Coalition, who in partnership with Equality Illinois provides resources and valuable information and support for our LGBTQ families and friends. Let's welcome Karla.
Thank you. There's a quote most often attributed to Maya Angelou that goes something like, you may not remember what people did or what they said, but you should remember how they made you feel. And throughout the years of my mostly adult life, people have shown extraordinary kindnesses to me, and the ones that I remember and treasure most are the ones shown to me in times of grief and loss. My first experience at a really sort of dramatic loss happened in 1993. My girlfriend of 4.5 years broke up with me over the telephone. And that was particularly dramatic because I had just finished graduate school, and I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with this person. And I was far away. I was had just barely started my summer job in the Catskills of New York, and I didn't know that many people. So I just sort of kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody. And then it finally bubbled up and boiled over the night before my first show opened. And it was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm painting, which is normal for summer stock. And my stage manager was helping me, and I just lost it. I just burst into tears. And I told her, you know, through blubbery tears, my girlfriend broke up with me over the phone. And she just gave me the biggest, longest, best hug that I needed that so badly. I needed that kindness, that warmth, that caring. I'm so grateful for that hug. My next experience at sort of impending loss came 9 years later. By that time, I was living in London with the stage manager, who was a really good hugger. And I found out that my father had been diagnosed with cancer, and that it was so advanced that he was only expected to live about 6 months. So of course I needed to go back to the US and visit with him. And the kindness that came to me at that time was that a group of my close college friends arranged their schedules to come to Indiana, where my parents were living, and they got a hotel room, and they were just there for me. And I really needed that respite from the heaviness of the situation, and I still remember how good that felt to have my friends around me at that time. It's really important. The next experience of loss, continues. When I look back on it, it continues to be really the most devastating loss I've ever experienced, and that was a pregnancy loss. But the kindness that came to me after that loss was that my last ex-boyfriend called me on the phone to see how I was doing, to see how I was coping with the situation, and I treasure that phone call so much because that last ex-boyfriend, I broke up with him to date my first girlfriend. so I had devastated him, but yet our friendship survived that experience, and he continued to care about me as a friend, and he understood how much I wanted to be a mom. that phone call meant so much. So that was 2004. 2008, I did have a little boy, and he was 2 years old in 2008. And my partner and I had been together for 15 years by that time. And she left me for a younger woman because parenting was hard and she wasn't having as much fun anymore. So the kindness that came to me that time was the same group of college friends that rallied around me when my dad had cancer, encouraged me to come to the United States again for a visit and just spend some time with them and process the whole experience. So they rented a cabin at White Pine State Park, and one of them met me at O'Hare and drove out to the state park with me and my little boy. And so for a long weekend, I was surrounded by love and kindness and talking and laughing and processing what had happened and figuring out what I was going to do next. And just being surrounded by people who love and care for you at a time like that is so important and so memorable. My next experience of a major life event, at the end of December in 2009, I had decided to move back to the United States and get married to one of my very kind college friends, not the last ex-boyfriend, a different person. But what happened then is the night before the movers were coming to get all of my personal belongings from my house in London, a neighbor came around with dinner, and he looked around my dining room and realized I was not ready for the movers the next morning. So he stayed for hours, and he helped me finish packing up my kitchen and my dining room, because of course you need all that stuff right up until you move. And I treasure that kindness very much, and I still keep in touch with that old neighbor of mine from London. My next experience of a very warm and wonderful kindness came in 2016. We lost my father-in-law. Now, he had lived a good long life. He was about 86 years old. So yes, of course, it's sad to lose a grandpa. That's a heavy thing, but it wasn't tragic. He lived a good long life. But what I remember most about the funeral is that just before it started, 2 of my high school friends walked in. And my family had become really good friends with them. We had a lot in common. And they had driven hours. And this was the day after Thanksgiving. We didn't know they were coming. They just showed up. They showed up to my father-in-law's funeral to be there for my family. And that kind of kindness, those kinds of friends, those are the kind of people you want to have in your life. Ooh. Need a second here. My last story of kindness is more recent and more raw, so I'm going to try and hold it together. This past August, I lost my friend Susan Crow. Our community lost Susan Crow. She embodied kindness. She greeted everybody and engaged with most good people with the most amazing love and light that just emanated from her spirit. And losing her was terribly tragic because she had received a life-saving heart operation, very complicated heart operation at the Texas Heart Institute in Houston. And she died in spite of the fact that the operation was successful. She died because of our stupid healthcare system in this country. She died because of red tape and insurance and bureaucracy. She did not get the aftercare that she needed, and she got an infection. And that's actually what killed her, was the infection. I was fortunate to be able to see her a couple of times. She was in that ICU in Houston, Texas for more than 2 months after her surgery. Fortunately, we were able to get her back to Illinois, and I was able to say goodbye to her. The first kindness that came after her death was, once again, a good old-fashioned phone call from a friend, checking in on me to see how I was doing. And I was devastated, and I was angry, but I needed that phone call, and I'm so grateful for that phone call. A couple days later, I learned that my friend Mary and I had been nominated, or that even before Susan had her operation in April, that she had set up a trust, and that my friend Mary and I were the trustees. So I was partly responsible for her personal belongings. Also, Susan spelled out in her trust a most amazing act of kindness, in that she wanted her home to be used as housing for LGBTQ people who are experiencing housing insecurity. And then she also spelled out in the trust that if that wasn't possible, because there's zoning laws and it can be complicated, that her house should be sold, and that we should set up a trust, a community trust, to provide funds for people who need housing. And she also spelled out in the trust for the possibility of grants or loans for LGBTQ entrepreneurs and small business owners. So even facing death, Susan Crowe was embodying kindness. And that's what I hope you'll all remember. And anyone who hears this story, I want everybody to remember that funerals are for the living, and showing up is the best thing you can do, that a good old-fashioned phone call can be extraordinary and memorable for years to come, and that showing up to do those practical things like packing boxes or helping somebody clear out the home of a lost loved one, that those practical acts of kindness go a long way and mean so much more than a card or a positive comment on Facebook. So please take that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karla.